came up with Agenda 2063, which was then given to countries to go and consult in their own countries and consult the people. So how are we going about to create this prosperous Africa? Clearly, we have to use the resources we have to create this prosperity. And the most abundant and most precious resource we have is our people to start with. The African continent is a growing population, a young population. So we have started what we call a skills revolution on the continent. The skills revolution means that African children should go to school, they should be educated, but they should be skilled in all the different levels of skills, from STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths, to technical technologies, technicians, vocational schools, so that African children are skilled because the economy of today needs the skills. And of course, the African Union itself has also looked at how we can harmonize education across the continent. So there's work going on with 200 participating universities. Initially there were 42, and now there are 200 participating universities trying to improve the harmonization, whether it be medicine, teacher education, mechanical engineering, agriculture, civil engineering, economics, geology, higher education, and many others. We have also, we are advocating that we should get more kids in higher education, and therefore the enrollment in higher education must increase. If we look at the number of students at our universities, they've grown exponentially. But if we look, for instance, in 1991, there were 2.7 million students at universities. And now we're well over 10 million university students that are qualifying every year. But where are they qualifying is one of the questions. They tend to qualify more in the social sciences. The split is about 90 to 10 in other places. In other places it's 90 to 20. But generally the split is like that. And that split needs to be changed. We believe that that split needs to go to something like 30, 70 in favor of the sciences. So education is very important, and I'll just make examples of how universities have grown in some of our in our countries on the continent. We'll all know about the University of Makerere, a Ugandan university, because that was the university that was there. But now they have six more public universities. Zimbabwe in 1980, during its independence, had the university, but now they have 12, 8 public and 4 private. Ethiopia had 2, and now they have 30 universities. Nigeria and Egypt have the highest number of students in higher education, 1 million and 1.8 million respectively. And they have Nigeria has more than 150 universities, some private, some public. So this has grown phenomenally. But still, a as Africa as a whole, we are below the 10% access to higher university. And so if we are below 10%, it really means that all you are doing is to reproduce the elite. So we need to increase, because we have to be over 25% to start massifying, and we have to be over 40% access to start making it a universal access. So Africa as a whole needs to increase. But of course there are challenges in this area, the financing, not only in South Africa, elsewhere as well. But the view of Africa is that there should be no child that is denied education at any level because of poverty. So children must have, it's a right that they must be able to exercise. If they are poor, they must be assisted. The AU has also identified some gaps in the education, and they've decided to start a continental university, starting with 5 campuses, which are going to be campuses of excellence. And these are in Nigeria, in a city called Clemson, the Clemson Institute. And that one is concentrating on water resources, environmental studies, and climate change. But it admits students from all over Africa in those disciplines. And then South Africa has been given the campus for space sciences. And that one is going to be at the Cape University of Technology. And it will admit students from all over Africa who want to study space sciences. It's the last one the others are already operational. And then we have one in Kenya, which is on basic sciences, technology and innovation. It's linked to the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And then the last one is in Yaoundé, in Cameroon. That one is looking at governance, humanities, and social sciences. And there is a view that we must increase these campuses. We must have one on maritime studies, and identify others as we go along. Because it's clear that unless we get this skills revolution right, we are not going to be able to reach this prosperity soon. And of course, just to say that next year is also the year of harnessing the demographic dividend in Africa, and education will be also featuring. We also have campaigns for girls to be at school and against child marriages, because it's girls who tend to be married as children. And so we are having that campaign because girls must be at school like everybody else. The next area that we have focused on is agriculture, because we still have a lot of agricultural land on the continent, and we can still increase the productivity of agriculture. And of course, the agriculture and agribusiness are growing. It's growing on the continent. It's grown from 13 billion. It's growing to a 13 billion industry, and we want it to grow to be a trillion business industry, and it's possible for it. And it's projected that by 2030 it will be a trillion business industry. And of course, we are also encouraging African countries to keep putting more money and investing on agriculture, because we've seen that those who have put 10% of their budget in agriculture, they are showing very good results. And we need this urgently because Africa is importing a lot of processed food from abroad and spending tens of billions of dollars that should be utilized for other things. There's also a problem at the universities. It was recognized about 10 years ago that working towards making it into a bankable project. There is the Djibouti-Libreville transport corridor. The Djibouti-Ethiopia part is now done, and we need to, the rest needs to be done. The Lobito transport corridor, the Trans-African Highway, which will link Kinshasa and Brazzaville through a bridge, and the Cotonou-Ouagadougou Abidjan Railway. So those who don't know geography, you can go and check when those are. And the bridge that will, in the Gambia, that should link the Senegal and the Gambia. And of course, we are also looking at using technology to advance some of these. So we're looking at the high-speed rail network on the continent. We don't see why we should still be looking at 1972 technology when there's new technology in rail. So we're establishing a unit at NEPAD that will be looking at how to link Africa through the high-speed rail network. We know it will take decades to do, but the work has to start now. We are also looking at a link in terms of air. A lot of you will know that before we used to fly to Europe before coming back to Africa, and now I'm very proud to say that that is happening very rarely. In part because Ethiopian Airways, which is the largest airline in Africa now, flies to almost every African country. I think countries that they don't fly to, you can count with your hand. They fly almost in every country. So we are able now to fly directly from one African capital to another. Also, SAA has increased its destinations in Africa. Kenya has also done so. So we can see that there is improvement there. And there is also work that is happening to try and create one African aviation market. There are countries that have come together to start that work because we couldn't wait for the slowest. So we decided 2 years ago that we should just get those countries that are ready to work together to create this. So there's progress there. And then there's ICT infrastructure, which is very important, as you all know, because it's without that you can't really leapfrog development, because communication is at the center of that. And we are happy to say that the market in terms of mobile phones has been growing phenomenally. There's 65% growth annually just over the last 5 years we've seen on the continent. And also banking and other innovative projects, information to farmers and e-commerce has really assisted to move things. We are also looking at the Pan-African Internet Exchange System project, and quite a number of countries on the continent, 32 by 2016, have internet exchange points now. And we also have 8 internet exchange points of Congo, Egypt, Gabon, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. And South Africa and Zimbabwe have been awarded grants to grow to become regional internet exchange points. And Kenya has been awarded a grant with the support of the AU in establishing the first global roaming exchange in Africa and only the 4th in the world. So all this work is happening, and we are also looking at free movement of people, because integration is not just about money, it's not just about goods, but it's also about people. And to this, I will just mention that in ECOWAS, people are moving freely within that sub-region, and they even have an ECOWAS passport. They are now looking at doing away with resident permits and doing away with work permits in that region, and they are looking at having an ECOWAS ID so that you can move freely with your ID within the 15 countries that form that sub-region. The East African community is doing the same, and others are following, but those are the two that are really leading when it comes to free movement of people. And when we look at continental free movement of people, we have a decision has been taken that countries must at least give a 30-day visa at the port of entry for all Africans. Some countries are saying they are still putting mechanisms to make it possible to implement, but I'll name those who have already implemented, like Seychelles, Mozambique, Rwanda, Comoros, Uganda, Madagascar, and Ghana, and Benin is following and Namibia is following. So hopefully more and more countries will open for that. And I just want to say the country that led this move was Rwanda. Now Rwanda is the smallest in terms of geography. But they are the ones who opened up for all Africans first. And what has happened to Rwanda? That kind of policy has seen them increase their tourism by 24%. It has seen them increase their trade with their neighboring countries by 50%. And it has seen increase in trade with the DRC by 73%. So generally, the free movement of people has more advantages than disadvantages. And of course, if people are free to come in, they come and go, they don't stay, because they know that they can come in tomorrow. But if they are not allowed to come in, once they come in, they will not want to go because they don't know whether they'll be able to get the opportunity to come back again. So I think it's very important to look at this, and we are now developing a comprehensive protocol on free movement of people, and we hope that that will be finished by 2018, signed by 2018. But in the meantime, this decision of allowing people for a 30-day visa, we hope more countries are going to join. We are also developing an African passport, and I must say I've been very privileged to be able to use an African passport when I travel across African countries. I don't need a visa. Though sometimes our immigration here say, no, where is your national passport? And I say, no, I'm using the AU African passport. So I think when we have the African passport, the decision has been taken that African countries, each African country will be the one that decides who it gives, because we as the AU cannot be the ones that give African passport to citizens. We don't know them, we don't have the population register, so each country has to do that. I also want to just touch on the peace, security, and human rights and democracy issues. As you know, in the 80s and 90s, we saw lots of conflict, military rule, and that ended up with the genocide in Rwanda in '94. And of course, with the AU Constitutive Act coming into force, the AU Charter said no interference in anybody's country, internal affairs. The AU Constitutive Act shifted a little, and it said, and it had the principle of non-indifference, that we can't be indifferent to what is going on in another country. So it's a step away from the one that was at the OAU, which said no interference. And the African peace and security architecture has come into being, and the African But that does not mean that they are not under influence. Some countries are still influenced, and that's why I read this in 2013 when we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the OAU, now AU. I read this extract and I quote, the anniversary solemn declaration went like this: we committed to complete the decolonization process, to protect the right of self-determination of African people who are still under colonial rule, pledge solidarity with the African descendants in the diaspora who are struggling with racial discrimination. And then this is the important part to your question. Resist all forms of influences contrary to the interest of the continent. Africa, I would say, is a contested space. We are not left alone to just deal with our issues. It's a very contested space, so many people want to influence Africa one way or another, and that's why we have situations like Libya today where countries came and bombed, and that's why we have situations where countries are still, some of them, they still have their reserve banks somewhere else, so central banks, so, and also the economic structure of the world still influences Africa a lot. You'll find that it may not be countries that are creating problems for Africa, but it may be companies that are creating problems. So I would say that, but it's not just for the AU Commission to deal with it, it's for all of us, citizens and governments and everybody, because that's why our resources are plundered and not working for us, because some companies, some countries, so it's a responsibility for everyone. But as I said, in terms of land, we've been working very well with women, because on the continent, 70% who work on the land in the continent are women. And that's why they've been so keen to have this charter on women's land rights, because many women on the continent work on the land, but they have no rights on that land. And some countries have begun putting laws that give rights to women. If I were to just quote one in the interest of time, Ethiopia has a law now that women own the land together with men. If you are married and there's a land that family owns, it belongs to both the men and women. And if they divorce, the land has to be split into half. Whereas before, if they divorced, the men took the land and the women went without. So for us, it's important to talk about land, not in abstract, but in terms of how it helps people on the ground, how it helps women on the ground to better their lives. And women in Ethiopia, even if you are not married, you can still own land. So there are programs like that. And South Africans were also part of some South Africans were part of the Kilimanjaro meeting, where women gathered from all over the continent and produced the Charter on Women's Rights, on land rights. So, of course, the South African situation is very unique in the sense that land was physically dispossessed from Africans in 1913 through that Land Act. In fact, even before the 1913 Land Act, but the 1913 Land Act is the one that is, took more land from Africans. And I think that's why there was the issue of restitution and land claims, that people should claim land, that it's just that the law is there, but the pace of returning the land is slow. But also, we must also be honest with ourselves. I drive around South Africa a lot, especially when I was a minister here of Home Affairs, of Health. There are tracts and tracts of land that belong to Africans who are not using it. In the rural areas, when I grew up, every field was cultivated. But now, you find just tracts and tracts. Even yesterday, I was in the Eastern Cape, in Portland, and some of the eNCA, they were showing me just land that is just lying, and people are no longer using it. So I think something needs to be done. That's why the AU feels very strongly in modernizing agriculture, so that young people, because young people are not like our grandmothers and our mothers, they're not going to take that handheld move and go and buy only malapa with their bags breaking. They need modern equipment so that they can work that land. So modernizing agriculture is also very important. So that's what I can say on the issue of land. Free education. I think some countries in Africa do have free education. Some poor other countries, Cuba has free education from grade 0 to PhDs, post-PhD, or whatever you want to study is free there. Nobody pays for education. Precisely because they recognize that education is the quickest equalizer in terms of the gap between the poor and the rich. If you skill your young people, education will bring that inequality much narrow, will narrow the gap. But also, if young people have skills, they will take themselves out of poverty and their families. But also the next generation will be more educated and have a better life. So education is very important, and I think in Africa, every country should work towards it. And at the moment, there should be no child in Africa. We have enough resources in Africa that there should be no child really that is denied education because of poverty. So that's what I want to say on that. Then on the issue of ICC, but the AU Commission actually has no standing in the ICC. We are not members, we don't participate in the ICC. The ICC is joined by each country using its sovereignty, and they can withdraw using their sovereignty. The AU has no standing in the ICC. But having said that, I can say that we just we're about to finish the court case of the former president of Chad, who was accused of human rights violation and gross violation of human rights, and was tried. The African Union decided that he must be tried in Senegal, and he has been tried and found guilty and sentenced. He is appealing, so the appeal, we are just dealing with appointing judges for the appeal. So I'm just saying there are processes that can be applied. We are also in the process of developing the hybrid court for South Sudan, because we recognize we appointed a commission on South Sudan to look at various issues, and that's one of the things that came out, that there were gross violations, so we're establishing that court. That court will be very independent, just like the Senegalese court, because the judges come from all over Africa. They owe nobody anything. They are judges with integrity, and they just look at the case that is in front of them. So I don't think we should fear that if there was a court in Africa, maybe if it was in a country and only the judges from that country would say maybe they could be pressurized, but if it's judges who come from across, who are not paid by that country, who are paid by the AU, so I think they will be professional and do their work in the most professional way they know. So I think I've dealt with the questions. Personal highlights. Well, I'm not quite sure what are personal highlights.
Basically, the things that you wanted to achieve both.
Oh, okay. Now it's clearer. If you were SDGs, Africa was a step ahead we want in those SDGs as Africa. So by the time the negotiations started in New York, we had a common position. Because we were the only ones with a common position, it almost became a basis for negotiation. And so you can see, if you look at the SDGs and you look at our Agenda 2063, they are almost similar, precisely because of that proactiveness that we had. So maybe I should stop there. Thank you.
Take a question, or shall we move to close? I'm concerned about the time. What I didn't tell you is that after this session, we actually have to do radio interviews because, as you know, the AU has other official languages, including our own community radio stations who have not had the opportunity to participate in the televised sessions. I think it would be amiss of me to not thank the MEC, Bongisi Tole Moloi, for making this event possible. And it's really important that we understand it in the context of South Africa's own plans and the work that we do on the continent. So this has really been an opportunity to showcase some of the successes of the province in the promotion of women empowerment. And I think it is as important that we have rallied the support through works and interventions such as this one around African diaspora communities to promote social cohesion in the province and in South Africa. I also want to say thank you because what you've done here is to help us to generate interest and momentum in the whole province, but more broadly in the country in terms of ensuring that ordinary members of society understand the significance of the African Union. I would like to then ask the eThekwini Deputy Mayor, Councillor Falsi Pierre, to come and do the vote of thanks. Ma'am, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Chair of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, MEC Ravi Pillay, MEC Bongiwe, Sithole Moloi, MEC Bezibe Tusi, officials of the African Union, honored guests, members of the media, Sanbonani, good afternoon. Although it's thank you, I have to give my few remarks as well. I rise to salute, or before I do that, I bring apologies and greetings from our mayor, Councillor Sandile Kumele. She was not available to. I rise to salute the entire leadership of the African Union Commission for the hard work over the past 5 years. Indeed, you have done a good job in the mother continent. We pay tribute to all of you for ensuring that the efficiency of this important organization. We thank you for supporting the outgoing chair, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. You have made it possible for her to make an impact throughout her term of office. Program Director, we are all inspired by the list of achievements that the outgoing chair has listed in her address. She has indeed ushered in a new era of hope and prosperity throughout Africa continent. But more importantly, these achievements represent a solid victory for women in the whole continent. She has been an exemplary leader and a role model for millions of women who aspire to make a difference in society. Everywhere we go and every meeting we attend, women salutes Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma for focusing on the implementation of the Women's Decade program. She used her office to intensify the fight against poverty and promoting entrepreneurship, economic empowerment of women, and ensuring food security for women and their children. She also prioritized issues of health, maternal mortality, and HIV and AIDS. There was also a greater focus on the provisions of education for women, including ensuring access to science and technology. Critically, the participation of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, as the only woman at the US Africa Leaders Summit in Washington in 2014 was clear demonstration of the respect that she commands globally. She is not just a local leader, but an international leader. President of Liberia as well, you see, for record. Program director, many writers and analysts have a lot to say about her. To us, she is an extension of many women who spend their entire lives fighting for equality, justice, and democratic society. To us, she remains the only person capable of carrying on with the vision of Mantantise, Makabaika Jama. I tried. She's the only leader that possesses the same determination as that of Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks is the gallant woman who refused to give her bus seat in 1955 and sparked a movement that led to the end of segregation. Her courageous act fueled the civil rights movement and inspired Martin Luther King Jr. to get involved. So Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is an extension of Mama Lillian Ngoyi, the first president of the ANC Women's League. She was instrumental in organizing and leading the anti-pass march, which was attended by 20,000 vociferous women. We believe that the political and economic well-being of a country cannot be achieved if women are massively underrepresented in decision-making processes. As women, we are not apologetic in stating that she is capable of leading any position. And of course, she's a medical doctor by profession, and we have no doubt that she will champion the provision of quality health care as well. She has served as both Minister of Foreign Affairs and Home Affairs Minister. In this regard, we are convinced that she will be able to drive foreign direct investment into this country through friendly political and economic relations. At this stage, Program Director, I want to pause and pay tribute to the staff and entire leadership of the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We thank, a special thank you to the program directors, firstly MEC, my sister, Art and Culture, Sports, Recreation, Mogi, Sitori Moloi, MEC of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation, sorry, I just finished. You see, I like you so much, I have to